So eventually we came across this kind of on a whim. We saw it on the internet one day and we're like, oh, well, we should probably check it out. We went and saw it at the beginning of the month. By the end of the month, we closed on it. And now we have a cabin. Yesterday I jokingly said, well, if the fire gets out of hand, we'll know by the morning. Well, it kind of freaked me out because I woke up, looked out the window, and the entire valley was covered in smoke. Like I couldn't see anything in the bottom. And I was like, okay, that's kind of interesting. So I took my drone up and just to see the extent of what the burn was or is or how close it is, and everything's good to go. But I didn't realize how pretty smoke was from the sky. It had this like really cool, mysterious depth and allure to it. Very Bob Ross-like. Took the morning slow, finished out a little bit of the flooring that I had left that was like my goal. I wanted to show you guys a tour of my whole cabin now that it's a little bit in the daylight. So we just purchased a 20-acre parcel and it had a cabin that was built in 1983. And so it hasn't been lived in very much, so it is a little bit in disrepair, but it was a perfect opportunity because quite honestly, it's hard to beat the view that you have out here. So I'm going to show you guys inside and let you guys know what we've done and what we plan to do. So this is a completely off-grid cabin. There's no running water, there's no electricity, there's no septic, no nothing. So it's pretty much like camping with four walls around you. What we have here is what's soon to be the kitchen and dining room. So the original cabin structure had some rudimentary like plywood cabinets. So the wife and I, we ripped all that stuff out, and there used to be some walls here, but it made it super dark. So what we decided to do was tear out these walls because they were non-load bearing. So what we plan to do in the future is actually get rid of the whole ceiling altogether and have it be lofted with beams. This cabin is a 2-bedroom suite. So this first bedroom that we're gonna go into is the guest bedroom. It's a little bit smaller than the master, but it's about the size that you would want for, say, like a full-size bunk bed with a twin up top. It's a really nice small room because you don't want to have a huge space where you have to heat. Moving on to the master, we've got all the flooring done on this room. And we're planning on putting a queen-size bed in here. Right now we have an inflatable just because we're spending just a couple nights here at a time. But we also plan on giving this thing a big window for plenty of light. And for all the rooms in this cabin, we want to put some recessed LED lighting on dimmers. And this is the living room, and this is probably the room that we'll utilize the most and probably put most of our time and effort into it. As you can see from over there, there's an old spot where a wood stove used to be. The metal roof around that leaked pretty significantly, and so there was a lot of damage done. So what we're planning on doing now that it's all sealed up is to move the fireplace location more towards the center so that we can utilize the flashing from the peak of the roof. What we intend on doing over here is taking out these 2 windows and putting 1 large window. That way, because we have such a great view, it's not going to be hindered by anything blocking the path. What we plan on doing in the future is putting some solar panels up on the roof and also create sort of an awning with solar panels up here in the front. We're planning on using about 2,000 watts of solar power, and to store all that energy, we're going to go with lithium batteries. Now the cost for lithium batteries are a little more expensive up front, but over the course of 10-15 years, you'll probably save about 30% over lead acid, either with flooded or gel. So the previous owner that had this cabin before had it for about 25 years, and I'm told by the real estate agent that he never once spent a single night here. And it's kind of evident in the outhouse. If you take a look on the inside, before we got here, it was completely empty. There was no sign of usage at all inside of it, which is a good and bad thing. The good thing is it's not nasty. The bad thing is it's a little bit rough in terms of the roof and the siding. So we intend on replacing all of this and then doing a metal roof just like the actual cabin. And then I'm going to retrofit the whole system so it's a compost toilet so that it's more sustainable, so we don't have to keep on digging out the cone and doing all that stuff. Based on all the stuff I've read and people I've talked to, there's guys that have used a similar system going on 10 years. So we're in this for a long haul. So the latest thing that we did to the cabin was we added this giant water cistern. What this does is it stores about 1,100 gallons of rainwater, which we're collecting from just one side of the roof. Now, based on my calculations, on average for this area, we get about 29 inches of rain per year, which equates to, with the roof, about 4,000 gallons per year. So the way I figured it, based on the averages of each month, it's going to replenish itself for the most part. It's going to run a little bit low during July and August, but for the most part, we wouldn't have to haul up any water. So if we use about 10 gallons of water a day, which is pretty good, especially because we're not using a septic system or anything like that. We're using a compost toilet. We should be pretty good for a family of 4. The wife and I, we were together for 10 years. Her family has had a hunting cabin pretty much since the 80s, and it's something that her dad, her uncles, and her recently deceased grandfather made with their bare hands. They go hunting and bring back the animals, and they process everything, and it's all like this big like family event. So having something like that in Lindsay's life was kind of lacking when she moved over here. So eventually we came across this kind of on a whim. We saw it on the internet one day, and we were like, oh, well, we should probably check it out. We went and saw it at the beginning of the month. By the end of the month, we closed on it, and now we have a cabin. So going into it, you know, I could tell right away that it needed a lot of work, but knowing how much work that her family put into her cabin over the years, it kind of made sense. You know, like, I know that it's not going to be an overnight thing, and it really fit our personality well. I wanted to be with mountains, she wanted to be with water, and incidentally, we have both. I've always liked the idea of going green and going completely off-grid. This was the best opportunity to do that. Like what I would call a bare bones cabin, and then turning it into like a legit second home. So